Welcome everyone to this tutorial. This tutorial is going to be on how to sign up and access our webinars. We do a bi-weekly webinar currently, and the webinars will cover issues that affiliates might be having problems with or they've asked questions about, as well as how to get started. And we usually have a few featured affiliates on the call as well to give some first-hand experiences and advice. So to get started with the webinar, you want to register. I share the registration links on the social media sites, and you can access them anytime at register.gdiwebinars.ws. And once you type that in, it's going to send you right to this page. As you can see, the address is different, but you'll get sent there right away. And this is where you register for our webinar. So just fill in name, last name, email address, city, country, and if you could, how long you've been with GDI. I also recommend when you're registering, click this link right here, show my time zone, because we are in the Pacific time zone, but of course our affiliates are all over the world. And I've gotten a few emails about this, people not knowing what time the webinar is in their time zone. So click this link, select your time zone. We'll select it just for the Eastern time to show you that. And there you have it. It changes right to what the time is, and it actually gives you all the upcoming dates. So once you're registered, then you want to check your email, and you're going to get a registration confirmation email as well as a link to get to the webinar. This is the email you're going to get prior to the webinar to join the webinar. So simply click join webinar and it'll take you right there, and GoToMeeting will do a lot of the work for you. So it'll just take a few seconds to get to the actual webinar. As you can see, it's connecting, and simple as that, you're in the webinar. And this is the presentation. We don't have a presentation since this is just a test. The presentation will appear on your screen, but what I want to show you is right over here. First, you want to make sure your settings are correct. We're connected through our mic and our speakers on our computer. If you're just listening in, the mic doesn't matter as all attendees are muted. If you're calling in through the telephone, you want to check that, and it's going to give you the PIN number to call in and actually listen to the call as you see it on your computer screen. That's why we sometimes call the webinar a call, because it's a bit like a conference call, a bit of a web presentation. So I'm just going to keep this setting as so. This icon is for if you want to see the presentation in full screen mode, just like that, and it's still going to keep this little sidebar over here. This option is to raise a hand. That's something as a presenter we can see someone in the audience who's having an issue who wants to be addressed. So simple, but I recommend instead of raising a hand, actually type in and ask a question. We watch the questions the entire webinar long, and we try our best to answer them during the webinar. Sometimes we're in the middle of the presentation, we can't quite answer them, but if you ask them, I assure you they'll get answered either at the beginning of the webinar, at the end of the webinar. We'll address them on Facebook, on the blog, on Twitter. So simply ask a question. And this is a great question to ask. Where can I find past webinars? Because you can find our past webinars at www.gdiwebinars.ws. And if your question is answered, you will see it right down here, and it will have the answer. We can answer you directly. So I just want to go through a few more functions. File, you can save the questions log, so if someone else asked a great question, you want to save it, remind yourself of the answer. That's something great to do. As well, if you just want to be reminded of your questions you asked, if maybe they didn't get answered or the answer was longer and you want to remember it. Obviously, exit, you can leave the webinar at any time. And here you can change the view. If you want to do full screen or the current window like we showed before. Auto hide the control panel. When you're not mousing over it and you're not active, it automatically hides this little control panel, and I'll just show you that's what it does. You can pop it right back out, and that's pretty much it. The most important parts are understanding how to get into the webinar, which is quite easy. So it's just important when you're registering, put in all the right information so we can get that email to you. Check the time zone when you're registering. Check your email before the webinar, and you're going to have the link to the webinar. And from then on, the webinar pretty much does the work for you. All you've got to do is click the link, and you'll be in the webinar, and then simply listen, ask questions, raise your hand, and just be involved and active with the webinar. So that's a quick tutorial on how to get into our GDI webinars. I hope to see you there. Again, they are every other Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific time, so you can check out our blog, check out Facebook, Or if you're registered for the series, you'll get an email reminding you what dates those webinars fall on. So hope to see you there, and if you can't attend, you can find the old webinars at www.gdiwebinars.ws.